Hi, Carrie here. So with the way I teach, a lot of people ask me how I manage to read all of the writing that my students do. My students each write one blog post a week, and I have about 120 of them, and I make a point to read everything they write, every word. So how do I manage all that grading and all that feedback with that many kids submitting writing that often? That is a question that I get a lot. So here's how I do it. It is a different way of grading. I actually think the act of writing and the conversation that the writing provokes is much more important than the grade, so keep that in mind when you listen to the method. Okay, so first of all, you have to have really clear expectations for the kids. So this is how I do that. I have this guide to great blog posts that is posted on the class website. It gives suggestions for what should go into the intro paragraph, the conclusion paragraph, and most of their blog posts only have one body paragraph or sometimes two, and there's very clear suggestions. And then it talks about how to include media and citations, and there's even links to examples of really awesome posts so that they know what a great post looks like. And that's an example of a really awesome one. Okay? So I start with that, and that particular guide applies to every single blog post that they do. So I don't have to write up a new guide for every blog post, because that would also be a lot of work for me, and it would be confusing for them if there aren't consistent expectations. So now let's talk about the grading part. I put this up on a whiteboard surface in my room so that I could show it to you. So I'm going to turn the camera around. So here's our grading guide here. A, B, C, and then D and F. Notice D and F are in red. You're going to find out why in about a minute. So first, let's talk about A, B, and C. For an A, it would be that historians and experts in the field would be impressed with the kid's writing. They would see it and they would be like, wow, I can't believe a kid wrote that. Seems unlikely given the amount of thought and research and analysis of sources that went into it. B is your teacher is satisfied, meets my expectations based on those clear suggestions that I showed you earlier. C is your mom, who loves you unconditionally, thinks it's pretty good. By the way, that's the reason you should be really good to your mom this weekend on Mother's Day. And so that's a C. It's okay. Mom's cool with it. D and F, generally not given as long as something is turned in. And if something is not turned in, I call the kid, I call the parents, I call guidance counselors, I call administration, I talk to former teachers. It's time to circle the wagons and figure out why the student isn't handing in the work, especially since I know during class they've been taking care of business. Now, what about feedback? Well, there's a couple of ways I do it. Personal feedback happens in one-on-one meetings that I have with kids at least once during the fall. It gives me a chance to kind of sit and talk with them, get to know each of them as an individual, and give them some feedback on some trends I've seen in their writing so that they know what to work on all year to improve their writing. The second way that I give feedback is every time I grade a round of posts, so about once a week, I may open up class by saying, okay, so I've read all of your posts on, Andrew Jackson, and I see that everybody's doing a really good job with pulling in evidence from the activities we did in class, but some people aren't linking to their sources or citing their sources consistently. Maybe they're citing some of them, but not all of them. So that's the feedback I give them. And then as a class, for a lot of kids, that's good enough. Between the clear guidelines that I've provided at the beginning of the year, that one-on-one conference, and the whole class feedback, they're good and they keep at it. Other kids want more specific feedback, and so they schedule appointments with me as needed. Some do it once a month, some do it once a quarter, and we sit down and we, again, have those one-on-one conversations. So that's how I manage to grade about 120 written blog posts every week. Clear guidelines from the start, a grading policy that's simple, easy for kids to understand, and feedback that's personalized. And is given to the whole class at once so that everybody gets the same message. So that's it. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.